Haven't we had enough of remakes? It feels like there hasn't been a single original thing in the past 5 years. At this rate, the 2020s will be remembered as a decade of laziness, greed, and corporate parasitism. We don't need all our beloved animated Disney classics again, but live action. We don't need Indiana Jones again, but old and rickety. We don't need every single video game that made money again. According to Parrot Analytics, 70 to 80% of the top 100 movies each year are based on pre-existing IP. Mouth breathers will just tell you, oh, just stop buying them. No, we can't sit back and do nothing while the sheep throw all their money at uncreative idiots. If you know somebody that's going to see, play, or buy a remake without pirating it, shame them. Never talk to them again. Thanks to them, we now have yet another remake. Halo Campaign Evolved, an updated version of the first Halo game using Unreal 5, to be released on PlayStation as well as Xbox. This after 6 mainline games and an anniversary re-release in 2011. People are already talking plenty about the alterations this quote-unquote new title is making to the classic gameplay formula, but this video is not about the gameplay, it's about the aesthetics. I've talked before about how the way a thing looks directly factors into the narrative, like the mobile infantry and Starship Troopers, and the same holds true of Halo. The changes made by Campaign Evolved to the game's visual aesthetics completely clash with the intended tone of the story. Halo is about soldiers going up against a fanatical horde of monsters hell-bent on eradicating humanity. The atmosphere is meant to be grim, cold, and dreary, reflecting the seriousness of Master Chief's struggle. Therefore, the original game often features cold lighting and harsh and imposing environments. The Halo itself is meant to feel lifeless and abandoned, with its vast buildings feeling like tombs. Compare this clip from the original to the 2011 remaster and then the remake. This structure here in the background seems like it could be made of stone, like a ruined Greek temple, a monument from an ancient civilization like the pyramids. You see, because they were both built by aliens. The structure in the remaster is clearly metal and pretty sci-fi, but still looks very old. It's unwashed, faded, clearly abandoned. Now, look at the one in the remake. It's super sleek titanium that looks like it could have been built yesterday. They've sacrificed the visual tone for the sake of making things look cool and sci-fi. Look how fancy the shaders are! And this isn't the only example. Also in this clip, you can see how they've gradually made the beach more and more lush and detailed the further time goes on. We go from a desolate rocky shore to a more grassy but still cold beachhead to a downright tropical paradise. This commenter remarks that it feels like landing in the Bahamas. He's absolutely right. War in Campaign Evolved looks like a summer vacation on Florida Keys, not a cold, lonely construct in space. The original version feels more like storming the beaches in Normandy, while this version is more like Star Wars. Another thing too. In the original version, you can see stars over the horizon even in broad daylight. In the remaster, they're behind clouds, and in the remake, they're barely even visible. Just another day in sunny California. Another thing the original does way better is the view of the rest of the Halo in the distance. Here, it looks much like Earth does from space. It's undeniably solid. In the remake, it is now, for some reason, transparent. Again, they make it look more science fiction-esque at the cost of dumbing things down. The original was grounded, and this was reflected in the fact that you come into the level in a first-person perspective, waiting alongside your men to touch ground in hostile territory. Now, the level cutscene is highly cinematic, cutting around to show various characters before switching to first person as Chief steps off the bird. Everything about Campaign Evolved is stylized, designed to appeal not to fans of the original, but to executives who want sleek designs and impressive screenshots to show their shareholders. It feels like taking Saving Private Ryan and turning it into a Marvel movie. Other people have pointed out that Master Chief and the other Spartans act less like soldiers and more like superheroes in the later games, with cinematography that's meant to look flashy and fast-moving as opposed to atmospheric and tense. Just compare the opening of Halo 5 to the trailer for Halo 3. While Halo 5's opening is fully animated, you can easily imagine that were it live action, it would be chock full of CGI, with barely any involvement from real actors. These guys' running speeds don't even match how fast the camera is moving. Halo 3's trailer is live action, and features hardly any CGI. With good lighting, detailed costume and set design, and camera work that most of the time feels cramped and claustrophobic, It really sells the idea that this is a titanic struggle for humanity's survival. The tone is solemn and almost fatalistic. This soldier is going to fight until he dies, and he knows it. So, could Campaign Evolved turn the brightness up a little higher? This may sound like a silly complaint, but turning the brightness of a scene up is an extremely on-the-nose way of lightening up the tone. Absolute master and god-tier level film director Rian Johnson subtly demonstrates this trope in his newest film, Wake Up Dead Man. Detective Benoit Blanc talks about how evil and bigoted the church is and everything becomes dark and moody, and then this priest guy says, no, the church loves gay people, and is literally illuminated by heavenly light. Damn, how does he do it? Crude as it sounds, this is what the beautiful dappled sunlight does to the tone of the silent cartographer. And while the full game isn't out yet, I anticipate that the rest of the game will be prioritizing sleek, sci-fi-esque visuals over the emotional detail of the original version. After all, you can see in the HUD things that will most likely be true throughout the entire game. For instance, the health/shield bar's utilitarian design has been replaced with more stylization, now placed conveniently in the center of your vision rather than the top right. Now, Master Chief is no idiot, but everything in the military is made so that even a total moron can use it. Everything is labeled and has instructions. Not even putting symbols on these bars would 100% lead to confusion in a real combat scenario. Not saying that Halo has to be 100% realistic in a story about fighting aliens on a ring planet, but it goes back to what I said about grounding. Other functions like ammo, weaponry, etc. have been shuffled around, but nothing about them is particularly offensive. What is offensive, though, is the big icon telling you where to go. In story, it's justified as Cortana marking it as a nav point, but come on, this is clearly hand-holding. This video isn't about gameplay though, so let's stick to the point. Putting in this icon is an insult to the level designers who already made a clear path through this level for the player to explore. The visuals are already guiding you to your next location. Putting in this direction marker just distracts you from them. And after they went to all that trouble making everything so stylized too. Too many AAA studios are trying to make games that are just movies. The player is less of a pilot and more of a spectator. Leaving it up to them to figure out where to go and what to do is unimportant. What's important is getting them to the next set piece, the next big, impressive cutscene for the executives to spend $30 million on. If big action set pieces aren't working for Hollywood, what makes them think they'll work for video games that are 4 times more expensive for the consumer? It will probably work because it's a Halo remake, but this can't be sustainable long term. There are actually remakes that do updates to their graphics while staying true to the original. While Halo goes from first person to a cinematic cutscene, System Shock does the opposite, with its opening scene being changed from movie-esque shots of the protagonist to just sitting at his computer, to fully immersive first-person scenes that put you in the action immediately. The game itself has fancy ray tracing and much more detail, but the lighting keeps the sinister shadows of the original, giving the game a tense, spooky atmosphere. The remake also has a much bigger color palette to work with, but mainly sticks to the same color scheme, simply expanding on it and adding touches of sci-fi flair that actually makes sense. Finally, the game actually improves on the sound design by changing the background music from this almost upbeat sounding tune to harsh, horrifying ambience. This is how you do a remake. Going back to Halo, the 2011 remaster was for genuine fans of the game, giving an updated look while still mostly keeping the tone and feel of the original. Campaign Evolved is, apparently, for people who have heard of Halo but never played it because it looked too old or something. Looking old isn't inherently a good thing, but in this day and age it should in no way be considered a drawback. Some of the most well-regarded games of the past decade look old. Minecraft is a great example, as is Shovel Knight, Mouthwashing, and Stardew Valley. True, these are all indie games, but if everyone is playing them, who cares? There's another game coming out soon that I think encapsulates this point perfectly. A game that uses an old style, one contemporaneous with the original Halo, to create a tone and flavor that matches the story it wants to tell. Serene Estates' Last Guy is about a man trapped in a labyrinth controlled by an AI named Serena. In a world ravaged by disaster, he and thousands of other people hid underground to be taken care of by machines which have now imprisoned them. To make it out, you have to solve puzzles, do various challenges, and avoid Serena's detection. Her cameras and drones are everywhere. Insert Jeff Bezos joke here. Okay. Everything in this game, from the music to the character design to the levels, gives you a haunting feeling of emptiness, like something is missing. The complex is devoid of any people besides you, and yet it's alive. Instead of fancy ray tracing or high-tech game engines, Last Guy relies on atmosphere, environment, and good design to get its message across. For example, take the main character. While his design is simple, it's highly effective. He's a little bald man because he's a prisoner who's been trapped in a pod all his life. The goggles he wears are remnants of the VR system he was trapped in inside the pod, and are necessary for his atrophied eyes. Much like the Matrix, he's never used them before. His green suit isn't very detailed, and that's because it doesn't need to be. It's a standard prison uniform, and you get the sense while looking at it that it's the only thing he owns and that it's exactly the same as everyone else's. Just by looking at him, you can ascertain all that about his character without anyone having to deliver any exposition whatsoever. The whole game is rife with little details like this. Unlike Halo, The Last Guy never holds your hand. It will tell you what you need to do and how to do it, but you're on your own from there. For instance, you're told exactly where you need to find a passcode, but the place the passcode is written easily blends into the background and doesn't have any special markings on it. You have to actually know what you're looking for to see it. The estates themselves are vast, but there is a correct way to go, and the game rewards you for exploring ways to find it. This helps cultivate a sense of loneliness, but also self-reliance. It's meta because this is exactly what the Last Guy himself is experiencing for the first time. Really, you should play Last Guy not only for its effective design and aesthetics, but also because we need to support genuine originality instead of corporate slop. If you're a fan of the original Halo, this game is what will tickle your sense of nostalgia, not this high-fidelity cinematic Marvel experience. You can't build the future on a foundation of nothing. Playing Last Guy feels both familiar and undeniably strange. It's a throwback to 2000's Frutiger-era style, but it's not afraid to do its own thing and cut loose. Maybe in 20 years we'll get Last Guy Serena Evolved, and everything will be super bright, and the Last Guy will be making funny quips about everything, making the entire game impossible to take seriously. If that happens, we'll have no control over it, so it's probably worth it to play it now for that undiluted experience. It's something I never got to do with the original Halo. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.